Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 397. I was trying out the English opening again here with c4. My opponent plays knight f6, the most common response and a very non-committal way to play. It's not giving away anything. You can go directly for the center with e5. It's maybe the more aggressive way to play, or you can go with a symmetrical setup with c5 or e6. All these moves are quite playable since white's not really claiming a big stake in the center, but knight f6 is the most flexible way to play, leaving things to be settled later. So now I could go with d4, transpose back into a queen's pawn opening, or stay in English territory with these knight moves. I go for the early fianchetto of the bishop. This is okay too. And then he sets up with c6, a very logical way to set up, trying to shut down the bishop. not that diagonal. Trying to shut down the bishop on this diagonal before it gets there. I go ahead and place the bishop there anyway. And then he goes with e6. So this is a really unusual way to play. We're pretty much out of the opening book at this point. But it has the point. It's going to get through the move d5, and he doesn't want to leave a weak pawn there after trading, so he can take back with a pawn and he'll still have a solid formation here. So I wasn't quite sure what to do. I just keep developing with my knight. Seems okay. It looks like if I want to keep an edge, maybe I should play e4 here. That would be an interesting way to play. And also, sometimes I play the English with the idea of going for a Botvinnik setup, and that would lead to a Botvinnik setup unless he challenges it with d5. And if he does challenge with d5, then we get into a Caro-Kann where I've fianchettoed the bishop, which I guess is an okay position, not one I'm particularly familiar with. But anyway, I develop a piece, and so as often happens in the English, black has basically equalized. But when you play the English, you're playing more for long-term effects and not for immediate knockouts. So I go with the d-pawn here because I decided I wanted to play e4, and I didn't want to allow him the option of pushing on with d5, so I'm just blocking his pawn here. He keeps developing his pieces, and I'll back up. This was the point where he could have taken my pawn, and actually it's one of the moves here, d takes c4. It's like the top engine choice, but it doesn't lead to a whole lot. It leads to just equality, so it's not like he's going to keep this pawn. But let's see, how does the engine recommend rounding it up? Knight f3, just playing for compensation. b5, I could play e4 here even, or knight e5. Yeah, you have this is like an open Catalan now, where you have pressure against the c-pawn. I have played that a few times, and that's an interesting way to play, and it's pretty good for white. So anyway, I didn't need to worry about him taking the pawn there, I guess is the upshot, which is often the case in the queen's gambit. You don't really have to worry about him taking the pawn. But I should have thought of that before moving. Anyway, knight bd7, and now I decide to defend the pawn with b3. So, okay, again, maybe not the most appropriate move. The engine likes taking right away. Okay, so let's play on a few moves. Bishop e7 was played. He could try and go after my center with b5, but anyway, he's developing his pieces, which makes sense. I go e4, and we get this exchange, which, as I mentioned in the video, this hurts my development a little bit because he gets this knight to f6 with tempo. And so if you look at this position, I've really only got one developed piece, whereas he's got two developed pieces and is about to castle. So he's really a couple moves ahead in development. But in the long run, I have a little bit of space in the center. Let's see, back up. Did he have a stronger move? The immediate e5. Yeah, I was going to mention that. Let's play on a few moves. Almost anywhere along here, the move e5 is a good move. The point where really the advantage swings back to white is with this move queen b6. Yeah, so leave the queen there and try and settle things in the center with some pawn break. The problem with black's setup here is these pawns on light squares are keeping this bishop a prisoner. It's trapped behind its own pawns. And so in these kind of positions, you should always be looking for your opportunity to play either e5 or c5 and open up some squares for that bishop. So it's this queen b6 move that really gives the advantage back to white. And now I'm doing fine here. I castle, and he develops, and I develop. Rook a d8, and good move, putting the rook opposite the queen. But I can get out of the trouble, and my only loose pawn here is the d pawn, which is well supported by the knight and the bishop. And he hasn't got any pieces that are able to attack it effectively. And notice this bishop is looking very sad behind its wall of pawns. So he really needs to break out with some kind of pawn move here. But he keeps, he plays bishop b4 here. He keeps moving his pieces around. Rook a to d1, just preparing. I might want to push through the center at some point. And he drops this bishop back to c8, opening up the view of the rook onto the d-pawn. I kick the bishop with a3. Now just gaining more space on the queen side. He drops back. Knight e5, getting a good post for the knight. And a6. Yeah, I haven't really decided how I'm going to break through in this position. I'm still just kind of shuffling my pieces a little bit. I spot this idea, maybe I can get the bishop here and do a skewer or chase the queen away. So I'm thinking bishop c3 and queen to d2, and set something up like that as a way of getting some activity. But the other plan in this position, if we back up, might be to push on with d5. The engine doesn't like d5 just yet. Actually, the engine likes bishop c3. I thought maybe that was a peculiar move. Or rook fe1, just a centralizing move. It looks like I have lots of good moves here, so this is one of them. It's just funny. The engine thinks that that's near the top of the list. Anyway, and now he makes the game-losing mistake, bishop d6, which if you saw in the game, whenever you spot two pieces together, one square apart in front of your pawns, you should always be thinking about this tactic. And sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, if the bishop can escape by taking my knight, sometimes that's a way to get out of these forks. But the problem is the queen is on the other side of the fork, so that's just giving up too much material. So he sacrifices the bishop instead. And then I thought this point was funny too. The engine is merciless. It doesn't just take the bishop back right away. It throws in the move knight c4 to chase the queen away, right here. And so the queen has to move, and then you can take the bishop, and you don't lose the pawn, the c pawn. What happens in the game? I just take the bishop right away, and the queen can take the pawn back. So it's slightly better for black than if I had moved the knight there and chased the queen away first. So a funny little nuance there. Anyway, I unpin my bishop and defend my a-pawn by moving the queen to the side. And I'm setting up some kind of battery along this diagonal for later use. He exchanges rooks. Basically, there's not much going on here. Black is just lost, and he has no... Even his bishop is still locked behind the pawn chains among his other problems, if it weren't bad enough that he's just down a piece. So... tries to stir up a little activity with knight d5, or maybe his idea is to shut down this diagonal, but I don't mind trading here. In fact, yeah, the engine says I should probably just trade. But I play bishop d4, chasing his queen first. The queen goes over to a5. I play b4, kicking it again. The queen drops back to c7. Put the rook here, looking for some tactics against the c-pawn. The queen goes over to e7, and then I play one more tactic, which is the skewer, and picking up another exchange. And so he just resigned at this point. But it was really over at the earlier point where I got the pawn fork. Anyway, a short game and a short overview, but still a few points of interest. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.